Good evening, everyone. We are going to call the City of Deltona City Commission Workshop for Wednesday, June 16th, 2021 to order. May we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Vila Vasquez.
Present.
Commissioner King.
He's here.
Commissioner McCool. Here. Commissioner Ramos.
Present.
Commissioner Sosa.
Here.
Vice Mayor Bradford.
Here.
And Mayor Herzberg.
Here. Now may we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, as we are continuing our budget workshops, this evening on our agenda is Public Works, the Transportation Fund, the Stormwater Fund, and Planning and Development, the CRA, and grants. So we are going to start with Public Works this evening. Mr. Peters.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Public Works Department is actually pretty straightforward this year. The key is some capital projects, elements, primarily a plotter that's used by the sign shop. We do our most of our own signs. The plotter is a critical element in production of those signs. Then we have a mower, called the articulating arm mower. And then we have a 4-post lift for the garage. Quite frankly, I'm not going to belabor the point, but you know, the Public Works is a fairly simple budget. No major changes to speak of, and so I will just open up the floor for any questions you may have. Phyllis Wallace is here to help out with answering any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for the Public Works items? Fairly clear? No questions? Yes, ma'am.
The plotter, I believe, and I know there was a little dilemma with the signs and the printing of those that go across the road. Are these able to print on those as well? Is a plotter able to print on that as well? Because I think Jane used to tell me, like, oh, we have to send these signs out to be done. The ones that go with the banners? Can they print the banners?
The banners we can print now, yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect.
There's very little that the sign shop can't produce in-house.
Woo-hoo.
Awesome. Now we just have to have a place to put the banners.
Mr. Peters?
Okay, Commissioner McCool.
I wanted to go over the second page here, FY 21-22 Department Vision or Goals. Install and enhance the overall appearance of the city's gateways and thoroughfares through landscape beautification efforts. And I just want to touch base regarding the never-ending issue that we have with littering in our thoroughfares. I know that I have spoken with the contractor for the DOT that does that. I know that they go in and they mow and they do the best that they can. But I would like to find out when and if and what we are doing. If you have enough support, if you have enough staff, if you have enough money for us to get the trash picked up, it's systemic and it's bad. It is the gateway to our city, and we're spending money, you know, left and right, and we're talking about appearance, but we can't seem to master the most basic of getting that done. Not your issue. I've been told that's FDOT, and then, you know, the city will have to get a contractor, blah, blah, blah. I mean, is there an end in sight to this? How do we get this fixed?
I think it is a multifaceted problem.
Phyllis, can you pull your mic down forward a little bit? Thank you.
I believe it's a multifaceted problem. My professional opinion is we have generations that have not learned that you don't throw trash out the window. I can have a crew going up and down El Cam Boulevard, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they would always be picking up trash, regrettably. If we are out and about and we see something, there was a dresser out on Providence that sat there for 2 weeks. I was hoping the county would come by. I finally just said, go pick it up, let's get it off the road. We are working on trying to revamp and kind of revitalize the city, potential residents' involvement in our litter program to adopt a street. And as a matter of fact, hopefully, we're planning on having a table at the 4th of July celebration with our brochures, try to, just get the word out that we do have a program and see if we can revitalize that and get a few more people involved in the neighborhoods. We had one gentleman who recently picked up Fernanda at April, and he has picked it up himself. He's going to do the whole block area. So he's hoping he can see a transition to his neighborhood that will then hopefully have a snowball effect on other streets going forward. It's systemic, as you said. Do we have enough people? No, I'm not sure what the right number would be. I'll be quite honest with you. Like I said, we could have people out on every road 24 hours a day and we'd be always picking up trash. We have a tremendous amount of illegal dump and runs. Staff has to go out and pick that up, and that's why you've seen increases in our dumping fees, because we spend a lot of time taking stuff back to the dump that we pick up from other places. So
I'm just wanting to move forward, because I know that I've sat down and had a couple of meetings with Jerry Mays regarding a anti-littering campaign. I know that we have the budget. I know that we have the signage that we can do that now, but I would just really like for us to move forward with that. I would like every commissioner to enlist every commissioner with residents in the district, because residents do go out there and pick up trash. But I don't think that residents need to be picking up trash in front of Winn-Dixie Plaza. That's my district. It's trash. I don't know how punitive we can make it for the owners. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm telling you, I feel like that it would set us free if we could master that task of getting that picked up and making it punitive. And in our ordinances, people need to be held accountable. You're right, for throwing their garbage out. I've seen it. It makes me crazy. So I just want to make sure moving forward that we're talking about that in budget, that we have enough, that we make it important. Every other thing that we're doing, when you come into the city and you see it in that state, nothing else is really relative to what we're doing if that's what our advertising banner is, So I understand that it's overwhelming. Like I said, I talked to DBI Services also about the same thing, trash up and down. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm just raising, again, situational awareness of it and making sure that you have what you need, that there's staff in the budget to do as much as you can, and money in the budget. It's important. We're pouring money into ecotourism. We're pouring money into responsible development. We're pouring money into infrastructure. We're trying to lure people here in businesses, and people don't want to be in a dirty town. So that's, absolutely. I just really wanted to say that. Thank you. Commissioner,
what is your budget request for then?
My budget request is for enough staff that we have. I don't know what it is. I'm just saying to put it out there for staff that's, moving forward, that the discussion is made, and that we move forward with this anti-littering campaign, that we get serious about it. I know, like I said, Jerry and I have talked about it, and we can do it. We have signs. We have, there's Facebook people that are doing that. There's a lady that is involved with the Lorax project where, I'm talking about.
I saw that. Mm-hmm.
That we need to take these people seriously. They're asking, can we help? So the budget request is that we have enough staff to do this, Honorable Mayor.
And so what kind of staff are we looking at to go ahead and do a littering program? Because this is like a random budget. It's a large budget request, but it's a budget request, but what are we actually looking for in the budget to go ahead and do a littering campaign?
Mr. Peters, do you want me to try to answer that, or would you like to?
Commissioner McCool, the 3 interchanges in the city, you and I have had many conversations about it, and it's a very frustrating thing. If you go across the river, you go to the Lake Mary interchange, that is wholly Lake Mary. Lake Mary did, with the DOT, landscape enhancements within the interchange. As part of that agreement, Lake Mary agreed to maintain that area. Similar in Altamont, similar in Maitland. Most of those interchanges in Seminole County and into Orange County are single jurisdiction interchanges. You come across the river, you enter into Volusia County, the first 4 interchanges are multi-jurisdictional interchanges. The east side of the interchange is Deltona, the west side of the interchange is either DeBerry, Orange City, DeLand, and DeLand, Lake Helen. And so what I would strongly suggest is that potentially having a commissioner involved, try to get the other localities together and see if there is not an opportunity for agreements with the various localities, possibly do an enhancement to the contract that the DOT has with their contractor to provide a higher level of maintenance. I agree 100% that your first visual to Deltona is the interchanges. But it is, it's hard to say that we're going to put our resources, our financial and personnel resources to an interchange that is equally part of DeBerry, equally part of Orange City, and once again, equally part of Orange City. So therein lies the dilemma. As much as I would like to clean up the interchanges, I'm not going to sit here and suggest that we subsidize the other cities by improving their entrance on our taxpayer dime. So my suggestion is that we reach out to our brethren cities and see if there's a possibility of us going together to clean up the front door of each of our communities. And that way, the impact on Deltona's budget will only be 50% of what it would be if we were to take it all on. So I would leave it with that.
And Madam Mayor, I am understanding that, but I also am about responsibility. No, obviously, no other cities are really caring about how our entrances look. So I'm guessing what my ask is tonight, short term, is what is that dollar amount? How much personnel does it take to maintain our interchanges? I know that we contract services out. I would just like to see a clearer picture of that so I would understand more informed what the ask is. This is our town that we're talking about, and we can't, while we can go talk to other municipalities, we can't wait around for it to matter to them, for us to take responsibility to do it. This football has been kicked back and forth, and I feel like it's always go ask mom, go ask dad, go ask mom, go ask dad. At some juncture, we have to cut the crap and fix it short term, and then move long term towards what is the sustainable, fiscally responsible thing for us to do. Now, that's my opinion. So I'm asking that we look at what the financial ramification would be for us to have that done and how much staff that would take to do that. What is the financial picture of that? That's what I'm asking this evening.
We will have a number for you when we have at the end of the month, I think it's the 28th, we were scheduled to have a workshop to finalize the budget. We will bring back information you request, and this would be part of that process. Now, right now, our plan is to shift it from a workshop to a special meeting. Special meetings allow the public more involvement in the process, and we want to allow that. So we will be doing a special meeting on the 28th, and we will have a number for you at that time as to what it would cost.
Thank you.
Commissioner Vasquez?
Thank you, Mayor. And Commissioner McCool, those are issues that have been looked into, been addressed since I became a commissioner. And like you, I also was told, go here, go there. But I can tell you that at times the city has jumped in, even though it's not what they tell us our responsibility. One of them was the dividers on Saxon Boulevard, right next to Racetrack and Finland. It's like an ashtray, people throw their cigarettes there. And I know I brought it up, and the city went and cleaned it up. I want to thank you for cleaning up and trimming the sign on Saxon and Normandy. I tried to cross the street just to pick up some, and I gave up. There is no chance for you to cross those roads, so never mind asking residents to try to help us do it. My question is, and I also today spoke to Representative Webster about those ugly cones that they put on Saxon Boulevard. And again, he's going to speak to this one, who's going to speak to that one. And unfortunately, the city cannot take it upon themselves to say, that's ugly, we're going to take them out, because it's not ours. But I have a question regarding the sign on exit 111 coming into Deltona. Is that repaired? I understand that it might have been, the electrical cords might have been cut when they were cleaning.
That's the one in front of the Wendy's?
Yes, ma'am.
I wasn't aware that it was out of service. We don't maintain that in Public Works, but we can get with proper staff and try to figure that out and see what it needs to make it functional.
Right, because I know it's not the city's, I think belongs to FDOT or someone.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were speaking about the city sign in front of
Yeah, the city sign,
Yeah.
but I was told that they're doing some work there, but the sign is not working, so they might have cut a
Right, they
electrical
may very
cord.
well have, so we'll take a look at
And
it.
are we getting a permit or permission to be on that property and have our sign there, or?
I would have to look into that. That sign has been there as long as I've been at the city, which is 9 years working. I've been here living since '85. I would assume, and we know what that means, is that we have an easement of some kind, but I'll have to
Okay.
research that and find that out.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Vice Mayor Bradford.
Commissioner McCool, I believe everybody has the same frustration. I believe we discussed it a few years ago, Mayor. Didn't they say that Daytona Beach, isn't it Daytona or Daytona Beach? Don't they do, I think they've taken over doing their own exits, and I think they reached out to the county and got some sort of credit back. You may know more about that than us, Mr. Peters.
Yes, ma'am. What had traditionally happened over the last 20 years is that the DOT does a road project. They have a set aside of 2% of the total construction dollars to go toward landscape enhancements. And part of the agreement on those landscape enhancement includes maintenance by the local jurisdiction. Needless to say, in the last 20 years, the only enhancement that's been done in the I-4 area is the actual bridge over the river. So there has not been an opportunity to take advantage of that in our area. They did do a modification to the Saxon interchange. They elevated it so it wouldn't flood anymore, but that did not fall under that program. So you will notice that when you drive through the I-4 ultimate project area, they've done a lot of enhancements as part of the interchanges, the seals on the side of the wall and things like that. So, when they get to the I-4 beyond ultimate, there'll probably be an opportunity to take 2% and apply it toward interchange improvements and landscape improvements. But that's why you see things like it, LPGA Boulevard. They did quite a bit of enhancement there. It's my understanding the city of Daytona maintains that interchange.
Right, and I was told that because they maintained it, they got the county to credit them. And we did do enhancements at the Saxon exit. I believe there was trees planted.
That was a grant that
Was that a
former
grant?
Congressman Micah got for the
Right,
city
and then we had
years
it down
ago.
Holland. But no, Daytona Beach got tired of the same stuff we're going through. It was Daytona or Daytona Beach. And they went to the county and said, listen, if you're not going to maintain it, we're going to maintain it. And they got them to cover part of it, is what I was told. So that was set aside from, I believe, what you're talking about, because they hit their bucket and said, enough, we're sick of this. If we're going to be mowing it, maintaining it, you need to credit us what we're paying to do that. So that's why when we get off those exits, they're nice, because they're maintaining it themselves. That's what I was told.
Okay,
So that's
I'll
what I'm
find
saying, if we can just follow up on that.
I'll have that information on the 28th.
Right, because it is important, if we're looking at doing these individual communities at each one of our exits, like they're saying, these other cities don't care. So if it is going to require, and I think, prior city manager Shane had looked into it as well on what it would be. I don't know if that's still out there to have us, or she said she did, to have us maintain it ourselves as well. So you may already have something started in that, or maybe she was just telling us she did and she didn't, I don't know. But it would be
I'm not
nice.
familiar with that.
Okay.
If I may, my experience at other agencies, DOT used to have what's called a maintenance of agreement, and that would be entered between DOT and the agency, who says, we want a level of service standard that is higher than what you're providing. So they give $20,000 a year. We want to see something that's $100,000 a year. You just said we would get the $20,000, and it would be our sole responsibility to maintain it to the level that we want to. I'm not sure if DOT still offers those opportunities, but there's certainly, I think, an opportunity to open a dialogue about it.
Well, yeah, because you guys are already paying for it anyway. I mean, by the way it ends up, it gets unruly and you guys end up doing it. So that'd be great if you can get that information. Thank you so much. Thanks for your hard work, especially in this heat.
And I would hope if we can encourage communities, neighborhoods, single-family homeowners to do their part, maybe we can then transition that also in getting our corporate residents to participate. And then I think you can see a snowball effect. Will we get 100% cleanup through the city? I don't think that's a realistic expectation, but can we do better? Absolutely.
So we did have the recycle program. I don't know if we could do anything with that on it. And I will say it's frustrating also for business owners, because it's a weekly occurrence to have to go out and clean the front of the business on Holland, because I get cups and bottles and people just have no respect. So, if the business owners don't go out and pick it up, it's going to accumulate. So we do maybe need to come up with some sort of program to encourage the business owners as well to take pride in the front of their business.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Commissioner King? Mike? Mike?
This is a systemic problem. Did I hear you say that if we hired however many more people we need, we'd still have the problem? I thought that's kind of what I heard you say.
I professionally believe you will always have a littering problem. The more staff and resources you have, can you mitigate it significantly? Absolutely. But it is a personal choice to put your trash in a trash can and a personal choice to throw it out, whether it's by the bag, by the piece, by the cigarette butt. That's a personal choice, and that has to be a change in mindset. And I'm not sure how we do that, to be honest. I do have one of my staff assistants going kind of door to door with our other agencies, seeing what they're doing, what programs do they have out there to see what's working for them, and can we look at implementing that type of program if it's working for them.
Because that seems like a problem on my side. That looks like a problem, because if we hire 6 people, or we hire 10 people, or we hire 25 people, we're still going to have the problem. Are we going to clean up both sides of I-4, or are we just going to clean up the east side of I-4? People coming from the north going west on I-4 are going to get off on the other side. So are we going to clean that too? Because that's not in our city. Those are all things I think we really need to look at and decide how we're going to address that. And that brings me to my second question of clarification, sir. I thought I heard you say that a commissioner should pick up the ball and work with other commissioners in other cities to come up with a plan. You didn't say anything about under your supervision or having some part of that, but it seems like to me that we need to understand that we can go talk to another commissioner in another city about something that's going on, but there are no decisions being made. We need to talk to you in order to have you and your staff really work out whatever the details are for whatever program that we come up with. Am I correct or incorrect?
Complicated answer. Let me start from a very beginning point. The DOT has maintenance standards that they follow with regard to how often they mow, how often they pick up trash. I can tell you right now that is not a standard that the city of Deltona would want. Then the county has their standards, and the county standards are very similar to the DOT standards. For any of you all who have driven parts of Doyle Road or 415, you have seen time when the grass almost exceeds the legal requirement for shrubs in terms of not blocking people's views. And then the city, on the right-of-ways that we maintain, we mow them much more often. The adjoining property owners mow them much more often. So there's a standards problem. And so when I was talking about creating a committee of one, the commission would do a committee of one to meet with other jurisdictions. The city manager would recommend to their various councils and commissions to create a committee of one so that they can sit down and come up with what do we agree is a viable standard that we want to have. And if there's an agreement on a viable standard, we get a price on it, and then we pay our pro rata share. That's what I meant by that discussion. Now, before the next meeting, we will have a cost for the city to take over that. Now, Ms. Wallace is correct. We could go out there today and clean every one of those interchanges. They are clean. Tonight, somebody goes to McDonald's, throws their bag out. Somebody goes to Burger King, throws their, I'm picking on Dirksen right now. Goes to Burger King, throws their bag out. Goes to Hardee's, throws their bag out. Goes to Racetrack, throws their bag out. Tomorrow, you wouldn't have thought we did anything. It's frustrating from our staff standpoint to spend the time and effort in a losing battle to keep up. I mean, a lot of it is a good information campaign. You know, the thing I learned years ago is you put those signs out, you know, you litter is $500 fine. And if a policeman sees them, they pull them over and they issue a citation for $500. People will quit throwing things out of their cars once they get a $500 ticket. The problem is we can't put that on a state road. We don't have the authority. So these interchanges are very difficult. My general observation is that when a community has made the effort to upgrade the interchanges, the community tends to take a little more pride in it, and they don't throw things out the window as often. It is when they are more rural and rustic looking, as I call it, people are more likely to throw the trash. That's been my general observation in my career. You know, obviously, this is a sensitive issue, given the amount of time we've already spent on it. And, you know, we're going to get you some information before the 28th so that we can continue the conversation at that time. Hopefully, the result of that meeting will be that we will give staff some direction as to how we want to proceed. So I would suggest we defer the conversation to the 28th so we can have some more information. Because quite frankly, if we give you a number that's astounding, it may take care of the whole conversation. So we will bring some information back on the 28th to discuss on this.
Okay, Commissioner McCool and Vice Mayor Bradford.
Let me just throw
Oh, I'm
one
sorry,
more thing
Commissioner
out.
King.
I think it's important that we remember, too, that we do have programs in the city through Parks and Recreation to adopt a park, adopt a road, and it seems like to me that folks that really want to keep the place clean should be willing, as a business or an organization in the city, to participate in adopt a park or adopt a road programs that are furnished by the city. I know the American Legion, we do adopt a park and we do the Veterans Park. And I can tell you it is a systemic thing. Quite frankly, the park, I think, commands a little bit more respect, maybe than some of the other parks. We're there every month. We generally have things to pick up and clean up at that park, but not nearly as much as some other parks in the area. But I can tell you that from the fence to the road on Elkham in front of the park, we could spend 45 minutes in the park and an hour and a half on that little strip outside just picking up cigarette butts. Forget about the bottles and the chip bags and all the other bags. We pick up as much of that stuff as we can, but it's frustrating for us as well to get a half a shopping bag full of cigarette butts and have twice as many still on the ground that we leave. There's a lot of them there. So let me encourage our businesses and our organizations in the city to come down to Parks and Recreation and sign up to adopt a park or adopt a road. We got plenty of them in the city, and there's a lot of them that can still be cleaned up and would help with this situation. But I just don't think people either know about it or maybe they just don't care as much as we want them to. One of the two. I hope they just don't know, and I hope that tomorrow Parks and Recreation is flooded with calls. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Commissioner McCool?
Yeah, and not to belabor this at all, I know that we need to move forward, we have a lot to digest, but I just would like for us to get Parks and Rec more involved, eco-development, economic development, because they can push forward. We have enough spaces in the town that we can banner this. We don't have to put signs on public or on state roadways. We can hang banners. We do it for other stuff, but we need to get on this. And I understand that we're going to talk about it. So that's that. Ms. Phyllis, thank you so much for everything that you do. You're very proactive, and I know that you guys work hard. I see your guys out there working hard all the time. I don't know if you get thanked enough for the job that you do and for your leadership over there, so thank you for that.
Thank you. I'm very fortunate. I have a crew of men and women that are very dedicated to the city of Deltona, and it's an honor to be their deputy director.
Vice Mayor?
Okay, real quick, not to beat a dead horse, if we're going to get prices together, one, does it cost to have the inmates for the work release program? Do we get charged by the county for them to do cleanup? Even once a month. I don't see it as a losing battle, because if we don't do anything, then we are going to look like the ghetto. So we do have to keep up, and I understand what you're saying. And then also, maybe, since we are doing a 4th of July thing, like, I keep a little bag in my car that if I have something, I put it in there. So maybe we, as a promo, is there some sort of promo we can do with the city's logo on it that we can give out that's made specifically for a car trash bag?
We are actually looking into that.
Perfect.
We're hoping at this
Okay, 'cause
last
I was
minute
saying-
hour, we can get something. If we can't get it with our logo, we're hoping we can at least get something. I've seen some recycled material for trash bags in the car. And some
Uline.
other things, so. I've
Yeah,
had my staff
Uline's good at
assistant
that.
on it, so we're working on it. We want to, if we're going to be out there, to entice people to come to that table, you have to have the giveaway. That's just the way it works. So hopefully we can, they'll take the giveaway, they'll take the pamphlet, and if we get 10% of those people that take the pamphlet calling us and saying, we want to adopt a road, then I think we've been successful, and I think it will just continue to be successful, so.
Okay, yeah, and then I'd just like to know about the work release inmates.
Commissioner Ramos?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just sitting here thinking, and I think it's great that we do get some numbers on the 28th. That's perfect. But I'm going to go back to a point that Commissioner King, I think you were making in reference to our city manager. I would think, let's go a little bit back, let's go about it differently. Instead of him bringing us some numbers for us to work as a city, let's think about this more regional in the sense of having to work with our other cities. Why not our city manager meet up with the city managers in the area? Because like you said, they're the ones that could have the ideas, they can, and that budget that Mr. Peters is going to bring to us is a budget that they can speak about, and then we can get more of a uniform concept instead of just throwing darts in the air. I don't know, just a crazy thought.
Okay, thank you, sir. And just to, since put my 2 cents worth in, Mr. Peters, from what I've written down here, for the next meeting on the 28th, I'm assuming that's a day, bring us some numbers on this, the inmates. Also, try to find the agreement that we had between DOT and the city regarding the beautification that was done. I remember that was Congressman Micah, and former Representative Santiago was involved in that, in bringing that beautification. And the one hook on that was that we didn't want to maintain it. That was, if you remember that back then, it was a problem that we did not want that initially because we didn't want to have to maintain it. And so I would also respectfully ask that you look at, instead of hiring more staff, what type of a contract situation you can do, and look at bringing in a landscape contractor, because the gateway, the 3 interchanges are only one part of our problem. The other problem are our gateways as a whole, and we have just a lot of maintenance for a small staff that we have. Even though you might say the staff is big, we have 20-plus parks, we have rights of ways, we have all those signs that you're talking about all over the place that we have to maintain and plant. We have the stormwater ponds, and if we're going to go ahead and work on the interchanges, we need to work on the gateways and everything that we have internally. So if we can also get a cost, if that's not budgeted, for some type of a firm, that would be great. Okay, we'll move on to the next, would be the transportation fund.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The transportation fund, probably the biggest element in the transportation fund is the Rhode Island roadway. When you go back to the back, under the capital improvement pages, you will see there is a transfer of $3 million from the undesignated reserve to the transportation fund. That project is $10 million, so it'll be taking $7 million from the actual transportation fund. We also fund TPO projects out of the transportation fund. As you know, over the last year, we have improved our standing with the DOT with regard to TPO projects. We now are in very good situation.
Mr. Peters?
We are going to be having
Hang on.
some discussions.
Mr. Peters, wait. Is your mic on, or?
Yes, sir, it is. I'll get a little closer to it.
Yeah.
Okay. We are going to be reaching out to DOT. As we have discussed before, we are not certified to do land acquisition. That had created some challenges with regard to projects. Just to give you, for instance, if you go out on North Normandy, north of Saxon, you will see that the elements of the roadway are very tight because they tried to build a 4-lane divided highway within an existing right-of-way. If they could have purchased 5 more feet, we could have gotten the sidewalks a little further away from the road and things of that nature. So one of the projects that's really impacted by our inability to do land acquisition is the second phase of the Providence Trail. This is the one that's in the area of Tivoli and Providence. If you drive out there now, you can tell by where the telephone poles are, that's basically the right-of-way. There is no room. Between sidewalk and sidewalk, there is no room for an 8-foot trail, much less a 12-foot trail. There would have to be some land acquisition involved in order to build that project. So we're going to reach out to the DOT, see if there's a manner in which we can do it, whether it's we hire somebody that is DOT certified for land acquisition, or we get people on staff to be land acquisition certified. Because if we're going to do that project, we need to have the ability to acquire land. The ability to acquire land will also assist us in future projects to where we're not trying to stay within the existing right-of-way and making difficult engineering choices in order to stay within the right-of-way instead of doing what may be more practical engineering solution. So that's a key element that we're going to be working on with regard to TPO projects. The rest of the budget, we have our annual paving coming out of this. Phyllis and her staff do the annual pavement management system evaluation. Each roadway in the city gets a score. We do the paving according to the score. Quite often you will have people come in and complain about the conditions of the roads in the city. And then when you drill down, the roads they're complaining about are the county roads, not the city roads. And so, you know, it's often frustrating on the staff standpoint that somebody calls up and complains about the condition of, you know, Pickett, Providence with, you know, with potholes and the like. And we have to inform them that it's the county. So one thing that we may need to make a decision on in the future, we're not going to talk about a decision tonight, but the county has approached this before about paving all of Providence and having the city take it over. And there are times that I'm not sure that's not a bad thing. Because I do believe we would do a better job of keeping the road maintained. The problem on Providence, if we got 3 severe drainage problems, Monday night you're going to have a item on your agenda for one of them that we will be handling ourselves. We will do it offline. It won't be in the Providence right away. It will be back off on Normandy. We have the area of Lamplighter. Is an area there's a problem on Providence. That will be addressed as part of the overall Lamplighter drainage situation. So I think we need to have a robust discussion at some point about, you know, meeting with the county about possibly taking over some of their roads, but that's not for tonight. That's for a future discussion. But you know, we do a very good job of maintaining the quality of our roadways. You may get a lot of complaints. Most of the complaints have to do with the edge of pavement that ravels a little bit because we have what we call rural standard roads versus urban. Urban standard roads have curb and gutters on both sides. The edge of the pavement is good because it has an edge, a hard edge. Rural standard roads, you have the road, a shoulder, and a ditch. And that edge of the pavement, when people drive off the road a lot, it's going to start to ravel because they break away the soil that's keeping it in place. So we have to be mindful of what the complaint really is. Is it the quality of the driving surface, or is it the appearance of the outer edges? So the other thing that's important that I have talked to the staff about is, and it's a pet peeve of mine, is pavement marking. You know, when I leave the commission meeting, drive home, and I go down Elkham, the pavement marking getting real thin out there, and it's hard to see where you are in the pavement at night. And so, you know, we have a fair amount of money in here for the pavement marking program so that we can have safer roads. You know, the pavement may be fine, but it's pavement marking, it's aged, it can be an unsafe condition at night. So we're addressing that. So with that, I'll stop and answer any questions you may have.
Vice Mayor?
Is there a reduction in staff? Are you getting a reduction in staff?
Pardon me?
Is there a reduction in staff in the Transportation Department?
No.
So personnel says for the 2021 budget was 278.5, and the fiscal year 21-22 is 236, which is a difference of 41,900. So that to me looks like a
I need to get clarification on
Okay,
that.
Transportation Fund didn't have the staff. What it is, excuse me, Public Works and their staff, we're sharing with the Transportation Fund. But Transportation Fund itself don't have any staff. So it's the allocation is changed a little bit over the years. Sometimes they're working more on the public side, sometimes it's more working on the transportation side. So Transportation Fund itself, there is no personnel.
And also, when we get to the stormwater fund, several years ago, the decision was made to shift employee to mow right-of-way from the general fund, transportation fund, to the stormwater account. What we are proposing is that we transfer those 10 people back over out of the stormwater fund, because the chart that we gave you tonight, when we go over it in a little bit, you will find that by shifting those 10 people out of the stormwater fund, we will be able to achieve the construction of more stormwater projects over the next 4 years just by making that change in the budget. Now, some people will argue as to the appropriateness of right-of-way mowing being in the stormwater fund. You know, stormwater fund is supposed to be for things that are related to stormwater, and I often struggle to understand how mowing the right-of-way is a stormwater function. So that's part of the reason we're recommending we shift it back.
Okay, so we don't have personnel in the Transportation Fund, and those people come from the
Public Works.
Public Works. So why don't we just have in Public Works? So here's my question. With this, the TPO, or not the TPO, but with the overpass, isn't that going to take a lot of personnel? I mean, are we budgeting correctly for the time they're going to be spending on that project to get that flyover? I mean, to me, I would think we would be the same or more, that they're going to be spending more time to get that straight and done.
I mean, Rhode Island? Rhode Island?
Yeah, the Rhode Island.
I think that when you look at what you're looking at as a transportation fund, like you're looking at other funds, when you have a certain amount of money and how it can be spent in here, and when you're looking at the personnel, it depends on what type of the projects you're doing, correct? And I can understand a reduction in some of it when you already have, like, the Providence Trail has been sitting there forever, right? And now it has to be re-engineered because it's moved to the other side of Providence because we can't acquire, to your point, we can't acquire the right-of-way on several houses along the side it was supposed to go on. So is that where your personnel cost changes?
Yeah, personnel cost changes in transportation based on the project, so it depends on how many projects they work on the transportation fund, so allocation is changes over the years. So if there's more projects they're going to be working on next year, then we should put more money in the transportation fund. But as far as I know, I mean, even we have this Rhode Island project, I don't know, we will spend a lot of times in the Rhode Island project, or we're going to they're contracted out on the engineering side. Personally, I don't know.
Well, that's what makes it confusing, because, and then if it's not there, then we're pulling back anyway. So what I don't want to have is, hey, we shifted the funds from here to here to give this department more money so we can bring in another person. But then on this side, that, to me, I don't know, like you're saying, if we're going to contract it, but I would think over the next year, that Rhode Island extension is going to be needing a little bit more work to keep us, rolling forward as well. I just don't want to leave us short on this one, because it's pretty critical we get it rolling.
Well, remember, when we do the TPO/LAP projects, there is a requirement for a 30% match from the city. It's my understanding that the personnel costs involved can count toward that 30%. That's why we put the personnel in here for that purpose.
Right, but we
With regard
reduced
to
it.
road-
That's what I'm saying, but we reduced that personnel cost in this budget. So they reduced the personnel cost for 21-22 by $41,900.
If you go further down, you will see that the number of LAP projects that are.
The capital outlay?
Yeah.
Okay, so you
Rhode
included
Island
it,
is not a LAP project.
so
Rhode
you
Island
included it in the
strictly-
capital outlay.
And remember, Rhode Island, the main purpose of that is there is approximately 220, 230 acres of land that have been platted that cannot be developed because there's no road access, there's no utility access. So Rhode Island will, A, open up that land for potential development. Second is, when you had the rezoning coming to you on Monday for 2 million square feet, by having Rhode Island in, we will be able to disperse the traffic instead of having it all going out Normandy to Graves and out. They have the opportunity to go out Rhode Island to Howland.
Yeah, I'm not doubting it. No, see, I'm not arguing about the Rhode Island
Okay.
extension. What I'm saying is, I want to make sure we have the personnel budget to get everything done that we need to have done to move it forward.
We will.
Okay, with the reduction as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Commissioner Avila Vasquez?
Thank you, Mayor. The embedded lights, are those, is that the grant we have received from the state?
One
And-
from the state, one from TPO.
TPO, and was that already installed, or is that a future project?
There are two separate embedded light programs. One coming from the state, and they're about equal amount, if I remember correctly. The second is a TPO related. So we are getting a significant number of embedded light projects under two separate contracts and two separate funding sources.
So that's
And-
a future project, it hasn't been done yet?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
If we have no more questions, we will then move on to stormwater.
Okay. You all should have received two separate charts. The primary thing is on one of the charts, you will see a pink box in the upper right corner. And the difference is, the one without the pink box is our current staffing level where we do right-of-way mowing out of the stormwater account. And what you will see on that chart, this is a chart that we put together exactly 2 years ago. And the purpose of this chart is to show you that at different funding levels, these are the projects that can get done. Over on the far left side of the chart, it's color-coded according to the types of projects. If they're residential flooding, is it economic development related? If they're nuisance flooding, and then there's general bird bass, what I call them. So we have 4 categories of the types of projects. We decided 2 years ago that number 1 was residential or commercial flooding, emergency access, economic development, nuisance flooding, and the others. And that's what the color coding is on that side of the chart. So when you look at, for instance, Clear Lake Pump Station upgrade, that is related to residential flooding problems in the past. So that's why it's marked in red. So according to our city priorities, the red are the most high priority of all. That's why they're listed first. And you will see that at the current funding level, we will be able to complete all of that work in the next 2 to 4 years, which is not a bad thing at $128 a year, which is our current funding rate, tax rate for stormwater. And then what we did is we added 152, 176, and 194, just to see what impact that would have. So we did this, like I said, 2 years ago. We wanted to update it this year so you can see. Well, when I saw this, I became really concerned because we're not really addressing, we're not getting down into the economic development stuff, not getting into the nuisance drainage problems. So I had Julia Johnson put together the second chart with the pink box in the top right corner. And that is if we shift 10 people to do right-of-way mowing back over to the general fund, this is what that results in. And what you will see is we get much further down the list in terms of what we're able to accomplish in the next 4 years and what we can accomplish in the following years after that. So it has a huge impact on our ability to address stormwater problems. Obviously, if we increased our stormwater fees to the other numbers, we're able to go much further down the line. If you put them up side by side, it's pretty amazing the difference in terms of our ability to accomplish projects. So that is one of the main arguments that we're making for shifting those 10 employees back over to the general fund. And that is probably the most important thing that we're discussing with part of the stormwater fund. So with that, I will stop and answer any questions you may have.
Okay, Commissioner Avila Vasquez, and then Commissioner Sosa.
I found it. I was looking for something, but I found it.
You found it?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Sosa?
Yeah, looking at the 2 pages, it's pretty significant of just moving the mowing back to the general fund. How much money is that actual in dollars? So it's $500,000 going back towards stormwater. So for the last couple, 3 years, $500,000 a year has been going to mowing right-of-ways instead of actual stormwater. That explains why I get a lot of complaints sometimes about stormwater not being where it should be. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, any other questions? My question, Mr. Peters, is I agree that it's a significant difference. Do you need, what type of consensus do you need from this commission? Do you need it on the 28th to go with the, obviously, moving the 10 people to the general fund? That should be your decision, but budgetary impact is like no-brainer here.
Our recommendation is that we shift the 10 employees over to the general fund. If for no other reason, I mean, put the charts aside. I philosophically have a problem when we have a stormwater fund that the money's supposed to be used for stormwater, and unless you're mowing a ditch on the side of the right-of-way, that would be stormwater. But the rest of what they're mowing, it's not stormwater. And so I just have a philosophical problem with that. And I will tell you that 2 years ago when I came to work here, I questioned that with the then city manager. I didn't think it was the appropriate use of funds. So this has been a sore subject of mine for 2 years. I'm now here, so I can do something about it, and that's what I'm recommending. I wanted to show you all this chart because, you know, at first you go, okay, 10 employees, no, what's that do? It makes a big difference. And as Commissioner Sosa said, for the however many years we've been doing that, how many projects could we have gotten done? And so that's why we're presenting this. It is my recommendation that we move those employees over to the general fund, and we will have a full accounting on the 28th of all of it.
Do you need that in form of a motion? Do you need that just as consensus? What is?
First of all, you can't take a vote in the workshop.
Right.
But you can give me consensus.
Okay. Then do we have consensus from the commission to go with his recommendation of moving the mowers back to the general fund? Commissioner King, Commissioner McCool, Commissioner Ramos, Vice Mayor Bradford, Commissioner Alba Vasquez, Commissioner Sosa, myself, yes. You have unanimous consensus to proceed with that. Vice Mayor.
Yeah, just a quick question, Mr. Peters. I hate to see any of these projects in the 11 to 20-year CIP. I really do, because I know we can look at this and we can say, oh, no big deal, we've made a significant improvement. But I can almost assure that the individuals who live on these areas that are still in purple are probably not in agreement with us. It almost makes me say, what more could we do in stormwater? Is there any way to try to get an extra 100, 200, 300,000 so we can get, how do we get these, what's it going to take to get these other purples gone?
Higher rate.
I mean, there's nothing else without raising a rate. I mean, is there anything we can do? I don't think we're allowed to use any of the new funding that's coming in for this, right? I think we've pretty much allocated it. If there's any more funds that we get federally, I mean, are we able to use any of it? You know, I'm looking at some of these areas, and some of these areas, you know, they're pretty significant as well. I mean, they may not be, you know, in that structural flooding or, you know, emergency route, but it's still detrimental to those people that live in those areas.
Madam Commissioner, I would share this with you. You know, as you all know, I'm an out-of-the-box thinker. I don't do things the normal ways. We had a discussion when we were talking about the COVID relief money coming from the federal government. When we first received the guidance on that, we were able to spend money on water and sewer and rural broadband. And at the time, I told you that, you know, we believed that we could take Lake Gleason and Lake Windsor and do surface water treatment and chlorination, put it into our reclaim system, and count that as a water and sewer project because it helped us meet the requirements of our consumptive use permit. That made it a legitimate water and sewer project. Similarly, not just Gleason and Windsor, we have some other projects that could fall in the same category of where we do some innovative work that we could do it as a water and sewer project. There's usually more grant funding available for water and sewer projects than there are for stormwater projects. Stormwater projects, typically the grants are for water quality, not water quantity. What we have is a water quantity problem, and it's hard to get grants for those. But I can get grants for surface water treatment and disposal. You know, over in Altamont Springs, they have a project called A-First. It's part of the I-4 project. That is a surface water treatment, withdrawal treatment, and put it into reclaim. They sent it to Apopka, to RIB site, to replenish the aquifer to help everybody with their consumptive use permit. DEP put in a lot of money, FDOT put in a huge amount of money, and Altamont Springs only put in about $1 million out of a $15 million project. That was a pretty good deal. And the hope here is that we can do something similar. Add to DOT, start talking about the I-4 beyond Ultimate. That's probably their only option at the Saxon interchange, is to do that type of project. And I've already spoken to people at DOT about it. They're supposed to call me when they get closer to time. But there are some opportunities that we can deal with stormwater out of other funding sources, and that's what we will be looking at.
Do we still have a grant writer?
A grant writer? Not that I'm aware of,
Didn't we used to?
unless they're hiding.
We had a contract for 1 year. We did at one point. We had a grant writer, excuse me, contract for 1 year, but I feel in that respect, there was no significant guidance as to what type of grants we were going after. So that never materialized again after that 1 year.
I will share this with you. When we had Mario Chavez, I have done it. We have had an unbelievable success rate on grants with our current staff.
You gonna do that in your spare time?
We got $1 million for the Eastern wastewater plant expansion. I wrote the grant application. We got $150,000 and $300,000 from the state legislature. I wrote the paperwork. Now, Georgia McKeon did all the legwork with the state, but we actually wrote the applications ourselves, and we have an incredible success rate just on the staff level with getting these grants. And the main thing is just keeping track of which ones are coming up. We've got a couple consultants that have unbelievable track records. Pegasus Engineering got to bury, I think, something like $44 million in FEMA money for flooding. I would love to get $44 million for stormwater project.
Right, which goes back to, you don't have time to be focusing on writing grants. Staff is pretty overwhelmed right now. So I guess my question is would it not be beneficial if we had that grant writer that's what they focused on? I mean, 1 or 2 grants, it's going to pay for themselves. To me, that's a no-brainer that we figure out what we have to do. And I'm sure with your wonderful contacts, you've got to have some consulting that we can utilize to get some grants in here to get these projects done.
You said the operative word, consultants.
Consultants.
And we have a number, especially on the engineering side, and Ron has some on the planning side, who specialize in writing the grant. They have the contacts with DEP, DOT, whomever doing the grant, St. John's. They have the contacts. They know how to write those things in order to get them funded. So yes, we will fully utilize our consultants, and you are correct. Those grants that I did for Eastern Plant were before I became acting city manager. So I applaud you for recognizing that. But as I said, we have consultants who can fill in that gap. I'm not against the idea of grant writers, but I will be very candid with you. In my career, it has been a mixed bag. A lot of grant writers are good writers, but they don't have the connections. And those connections are what's important. And so we have hired a slew of consultants who have been incredible at getting money for their clients. Because let's face it, if they get money for their clients, they get work. And so they're motivated to get the grants. And so I'm not disagreeing with you. I agree with you 100%. It's just, which consultant do we get? And
Right. What do you need from us? Do you need anything from us on direction-wise to, do we need upfront funding for these consultants? I mean, I don't know if everybody's in agreement, but to me, if we can lessen this budget by bringing in more grants, then, we definitely need to look at that.
whatever we need to do to get these grants brought in and get these top-notch consultants, that takes the burdens off the residents and the businesses. So I don't know what you need from us. Do we need any more direction? You can just
I do not need direction because
Perfect.
that's exactly what we're doing.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner McCool?
That was written on my hand and in my book, same grant writers. That occurred to me today because we have all of these projects. We have projects in every stormwater, parks and rec, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. I know that Ms. Ellis, Terry Ellis, has been harping on that for a couple of years now, you know what I mean? Because we have admittedly been so busy working in our business that sometimes it's hard to work on our business. And as we move forward, I hope that we remember that, and that's why I keep harping on, do we have enough staff? Do we have enough staff? Because at some juncture, we're gonna have to leave the firefighters to fighting the fires while, you know, leaders lead. And I just want to bring that home and make sure that we're doing that, because we're leaving a lot of money on the table, and we have a lot of important development coming up. We have a lot of important projects on the books as it is right now, and I would like to drive home a lot of these stormwater projects are in my district, and I've seen them firsthand. 4 or 5 of these are in my neighborhood, and I get to experience that flooding every time that we have less than perfect weather. And I know that Ms. Phyllis has heard my phone calls as a resident regarding this for a couple of years now. So the more help we have, the better, being proactive. So that's enough consensus for me. And I think it fortuitous that, you know, that we have brought that up. We should explore that.
Okay, I will agree in terms of a grant writer. We had the person for 1 year, and again, the direction has to be what grants are you going to apply for, and what grant writer is qualified to write certain grants. Just because you're a grant writer doesn't mean you're certified or qualified to write a public works grant or an engineering grant. And I can tell you from my personal experience with the Florida League of Cities, grants are out there right now. With Governor DeSantis poured a ton of money into water this year, and we have already taken advantage of that. And I can also tell you that from a grant writing standpoint, the grants that Mr. Peters has written were far above anything that we've had in the past. So in terms of his technical knowledge and producing that to get us that money, I think that we've been very successful. If you'll notice, our appropriation was not vetoed in the budget. We were able to get the money in the budget that we sought. And the county's appropriation, correct me if I'm wrong, sir, was vetoed. Other municipalities were vetoed. The governor left ours in. And a lot of that is in part to what we're doing and how those appropriations are managed and the ask and so forth. And we have a really good team doing that. We also, being on the policy committee for utilities, natural resources, and public works, we're looking at this being the last year for a ton of water funding. They've done so much in the last 3 or 4 years from Tallahassee and given a lot of money, a lot of state funding toward water projects across the state that, you know, the grants are open now. We've applied. We're working on that, correct, sir? For the current DEP funding, the pot that's out there, we're working on that. So I am definitely in favor of seeing what we can do with stormwater. And Mr. Peters, when will the rate approval be on the agenda? Will that be on?
Scheduled for Monday night.
Okay, so we're going to have it on this coming agenda for this. Okay, thank you, sir. And now, seeing no more questions for stormwater, we'll move to planning and development, the CRA, and grants.
Let me just start with a little bit of a prelude here. I have been extremely hard on Lawn Paradise. And collectively, we have been hard on Lawn Paradise. We're talking about rewriting our land development code. We're talking about an ordinance on rental property license. We are doing an impact fee study. I asked Ron to get back with the consultant on the impact fee study to do a general government review. What that purpose of that is, it goes back to the adage I said the other night, where if the developer creates the need, the developer pays for it. That is Marcia's time, when she's reviewing a development agreement. It is Ron's staff when they're reviewing plans. It's Phyllis Wallace and her staff when they're reviewing plans. It's the Danskin and the engineering staff. So that the developer will reimburse us back for the cost that general government spends on their projects. So the additional upcharge, we haven't gotten the actual number, but the number that we expect will be well within my authority. We're expecting something like $6,000, $7,000. But we will be able to come forward with an ordinance at some point where the developer will be paying for the city attorney time spent on development. That will have a dramatic impact on the general fund. You know, there have been a lot of comments about the city attorney's budget, but with that general services fee, that impact to the public will be significantly reduced. So I just want to do a shout out to Ron and his staff. Ron and I met today to kind of get a priority list on what he needs to work on. But we have funding in here to start the land development redo. And I also want to point out that Ron has really stepped up in our efforts to improve code enforcement. He had been out there with the code enforcement staff, especially in the commercial areas, because there's some unique situations. We just had a thorough review of Ms. McCool's favorite commercial site down the street. We identified 77 violations, and very significant ones. It may turn out to be the most difficult code enforcement case we've ever had. There's multiple ownership involved and what have you. But as Ms. Vasquez can attribute, the CRA, we had a major sweep. I don't think any of you all got but maybe 1 or 2 complaints out of all the violations that we did. The business owners appreciate what a clean area it's like. It's the old broken window syndrome. You know, if it's a broken window down the street, then why should I make the effort to fix my property? But then when that broken window gets fixed because the city made them, ooh, I better fix up my property. We have seen a difference already on Deltona Boulevard. Next week, we're going to be working with the Winn-Dixie Plaza at Normandy and Providence. We're not going in to beat them up. We're going in to meet with them to discuss what the violations are and how we can achieve compliance. That's the way we're working. But Ron has been an integral part of that whole thing. He is actually out there in the field with them. He provides that level of knowledge of our code. And so you know, I've been really proud of him because he has really stepped up and been an integral part of a lot of the changes that we've been able to achieve. So with that, I'm going to ask Ron to come up. There's really, I don't think, anything earth-shattering in the budget other than the amount of money we're setting aside for consultant purposes to help us start the modification of the land development code.
Thank you, AC and Peters. I appreciate that. Just to let you all know, this is a team effort. Everybody's stepping up to the plate. Everybody at Planning Development Services, Public Works, Enforcement Services, Building Construction Services. You know, we've all been, it's what we're here to do. This is an example of positive intragovernmental coordination, where everybody's pulling and rowing in the same direction. With that being said, Planning and Development Services budget, it's a pretty simple budget. We're not a capital-intensive outfit. I don't even think, well, we don't even have any vehicles here. And, you know, some of the things we do is land use, you know, the comp plan. As you all know, Planning and Development Services is pretty consistent about having something on most agendas here for the City Commission to discuss and decide. Sometimes the fun factor is, yeah, maybe on the low side. Other times, you know, it's pretty exciting stuff for the city. We get into land development, site plans, plats, and so forth. Mr. Peters talked about the Land Development Code, pretty thick book. Chapters 70 through 110, you know, generally comprises the Land Development Code of the city's Code of Ordinances. Plan Development Services is largely responsible for implementing many of the provisions within that code. We are involved with infrastructure. Again, you know, following the lead of Public Works on infrastructure. We represent the city on the TPO Technical Coordinating Committee. We do get involved in grant writing and management. Again, team effort. We work really well with economic development, Parks and Rec, and again, Public Works. You know, we work on ECHO grants. We work on you know, TPO grants and so forth. I'm not going to steal Ms. Briggs's thunder on the SHIP and CDBG. I'm just going to go ahead and leave that up to her. We're going to talk a little bit about the Southwest Volusia Community Redevelopment Area. And then, of course, back to Ms. Briggs, there's housing assistance here. Here's our org chart. We've got 9 positions right now. We do have 1 vacant position. We're evaluating on how to allocate that at this juncture. Here's our budget overview. Most of our, you know, it's personnel heavy. What we did last year, again, probably the most evident is we worked on the Amazon project. Again, a lot of teamwork. Worked really closely with Public Works, worked really closely with the city manager's office and legal. A lot of work on Amazon, but it's there. Again, just kind of a list here of what we've been working on here. Moving forward, 21 and 22, budget year. We're going to be looking at, you know, working on the city's concurrency management system. That involves water, sewer, roadways, parks, law enforcement, level service, stuff that every local government needs to function. Mr. Peters talked about the impact fees. We've got a contract out with probably one of the most premier consultants, Duncan and Associates. You all approved this here recently for us to hire Duncan and Associates to look at our impact fees. We've also talked, you know, just kind of dovetailing what ACM Peters was saying, that we're going to be looking at also implementing what has been termed as a general government impact fee as well, to kind of help, you know, recoup some of the more administrative oriented elements of land development. We'll see where that goes with the consultant. We're going to be working on land development updates of land development code. In 2020, we initiated traffic counts. We tried to do traffic counts every 2 years. We suspended traffic counts for 2020. because of the COVID event, we didn't feel the traffic volumes in the city based on there being limited school activity and people staying at home and so forth was really indicative of the traffic characteristics on the city's network. So we're going to be looking at doing that again. Just continue to assist, be a team player. And Mr. Peters talked about Rhode Island Road and so forth, you know, pretty significant and exciting transportation upgrades on this. This is just kind of, you know, where we've been quantitatively. And before we get into questions, I just want to provide an update on the CRA. As you all remember, the last CRA board, which consists of the City Commission, was on the 19th of April. And basically, some of the direction that we got from the city, just kind of provide an update on that, was expanding streetlights, especially at the Saxon and Normandy intersection. We've been working with Duke, and, you know, things are moving along with Duke. They're a large bureaucracy, but the first thing that we're looking at doing is upgrading the wattage of the light bulbs within that intersection in an immediate vicinity. We're talking about 30 lights. It's going to probably cost the city about $250 more a month. And this, just to change out the light bulbs, is there a joke there about how many planners it takes to change a light bulb here? Somewhere is about $3,000. So we'd like to move forward with that and kind of get that project, or at least that element, squared away while Duke does its photometric analysis and whatnot to expand illumination in that area. Mr. Peters talked about lap certification. We've got a pretty good, we're well positioned with FDOT, and we're going to broach that. That's kind of, you know, taking the next step to more complicated projects and so forth. There's a direction to spend about $10,000 a year on sidewalk improvements and accessibility. Right now, as part of a larger initiative, the city is looking at inventorying its sidewalk and pedestrian facilities through an accessibility study, and we anticipate that we can start to work within the CRA as we get that data in here so that help us prioritize that. Bus stop improvements, including a bus shelter. Again, we're directed to spend $28,000 a year. Right now, nothing has been undertaken with regard to the bus shelters. Also, feasibility study for smoothing out that geometry on North Normandy hasn't been undertaken either. It's kind of a hope that maybe the TPO will finally come through on that. We did participate in another TPO feasibility study that involved the intersection of Normandy Boulevard and Deltona Boulevard. And as y'all remember, a component of that was a roundabout. That feasibility study did come in, and basically what it illustrated in something that comes probably as no great surprise, that the roundabout idea is too land hungry. It's going to result in some houses needed to be taken and so forth. So there's maybe some other alternatives that, you know, with turn lane, more conventional or you know, type of improvements with regard to that. And we did spend about $2,500 on that to participate in that feasibility study. There were some other initiatives discussed. $17,000 to address blighted properties, more specifically 801 and 900 Deltona Boulevard, 2 old gas stations. And there's questions about the tanks and the environmental issues associated with those tanks. I don't know if Mr. Peter mentioned this, but we did get some information that evidently 801 Deltona Boulevard is going to be demolished, that old Shell station, and it's going to be put back. We've asked them to put it back to, a grassed condition. We still don't know how that's going to reconcile with tank work, so that's kind of yet to be determined. Studying the potential for facade improvements within the CRA, $10,000, that has not yet been initiated. We did issue a request for proposal for a bus bench service. RFP went out, and we got responses on that. The existing contractor, Waverly, had some concerns about how they responded to that, and we decided to ensure that everybody's got a level playing field. We sent it out for a couple more weeks so that everybody can compete, like I said, on a level playing field, including our existing contractor. Mr. Peters has been working with a consultant to look at expanding sewer coverage within certain strategic areas within the CRA. As we all know, it's very hard, if not impossible, to have the R redevelopment in CRA without full utility coverage. We talked about the embedded lights. We're going to be treating some crosswalks along the Deltona Boulevard with that appropriation that was approved by the City Commission at the last regularly scheduled City Commission meeting, which was on the 7th, I believe. And we're going to start to look at some urban forestry type of activities on some of the thoroughfares within the CRA to provide, help ameliorate or mitigate some of the heat island effect, and also provide some aesthetic improvement to those corridors. I'd be happy to field any questions y'all may have with regard to this. And again, Ms. Briggs will come up and kind of give a brief overview of CDBG and the SHIP programs.
Okay, you have a little list here. So Commissioner Avila Vasquez, then Vice Mayor Bradford, and Commissioner McCool.
Thank you, Mayor. The gas station, were those tanks removed, or are they?
They're there now. We're not sure exactly what if this demolition is only going to be above ground. We're not sure what they're going to do with the tanks.
Are they required to remove the tanks, or can they just leave them there?
I don't think that they're exactly required to remove the tanks. We had a conversation with a couple of the lawyers that the landowner hired to work with the city over their code compliance challenges, and they indicated that those tanks are in compliance, and they did indicate they would like to keep them since they are in compliance, in case that the property was sold to another gas station user.
And they
Madam
at least
Commissioner, if I could jump in on this one. Something that you all probably not aware of. We had 2 gas stations in the area that are vacant. We had concern that if we pursued code compliance, we could get to a point that we would have to do an abatement. And when you're dealing with gas tanks, you don't want to debate a problem with a problem tank. So what we did is we had a consultant do a phase 1 and phase 2 environmental assessment. And it came back that both sites had compliant tanks. So at that point, we put the effort to bring these properties into compliance, knowing that if we ever got to abatement, that we wouldn't be taking on a bigger problem. So that was one of the things that was done behind the scenes to protect the interests of the city. And so if they leave the tanks in place, and as long as there's no petroleum product in them, they're fully in compliant, and they could stay there in that particular situation.
Okay, that was going to be my next question, if they were emptied out. And I just want to make a comment also with the CRA and code enforcement going around. For a change, we had an email from a business owner who's, was cited for some stuff, and he's reaching out to the city to help him or her or them to, settle the problems that they're having. And I think that's a plus, for code enforcement and city staff, that they understand, this is the wrong thing in my business, but I need you guys to come and help me, give me time to correct it and tell me how to correct it. So I think, good job on you guys. And I know that Mr. Grady is going out there or probably met with them already. So thank you.
Yeah, I know the code enforcement staff's been very active working with those landowners down there and those business owners.
Okay, Vice Mayor?
Okay, let's talk numbers. Department budget overview. And I know you briefly went into it, but I kind of want it broke down a little bit more. So personnel is going down 4,100, I believe it is. The operating, explain that to me again. So we're going to put, how many consultants are you hiring? Because you had mentioned you're going to hire consultants. So the way I see it, you've got a 274,800 increase under operating, and then we've got a 30,700 increase under the IT allocation. So go a little bit more in depth on those, please.
Okay, the operating, the majority of the operating is for professional services to hire for the traffic counts. They're usually about $20,000. We can expect that probably there'll be a renegotiation event, and they'll probably go up. We also allocated, which we paid for out of this budget, $100,000 for the impact fee update. That figure came in less, about half of that, and was paid for out of this budget year that we're currently operating under, and we plan to use that money for updates to the city's land development code. And there may be some other traffic studies for intersection improvements if the city wants to look at getting grants or applying for a TPO grant or something like that. That's where the majority of that money is. There's like $373,000, and like I said, it's professional services.
So we got traffic counts. All right, so if it came out of this year's budget, what are you going to do how are we going to do? I mean, this year's budget, we actually were, I believe, from when I looked at, incredibly lower, which is great. So if we can keep it in that year's budget, then doesn't that give extra money for the 2021 budget or the 21-22 budget?
Yeah.
I mean, would we want to keep it in this budget since we were substantially lower and then not have to pull it over into this one? I mean, to me, that would make more sense. It's almost like we're just throwing $100,000 extra over here. That's how I'm looking at it, because we've already taken it out, you're saying, right?
The impact fee study was $48K, if memory serves me.
Right.
And it came out of this year's budget, professional services.
So why is it in this budget again?
We did not realize that we'd be able to afford that impact fee study with the resources that we had in professional services. So when we did the budget, we put in the $100,000 for impact fee studies. And right now, we're suggesting it be repurposed for revisions to the land development code.
I'm still not totaling 274,000. Maybe my math is wrong, and I'm sorry. I guess if we have money left in the 2021 budget, to me, it would make sense that we have it in there. And I see what you're saying is, okay, we're going to keep it here, but now you want to use $100,000 for the additional study.
Yeah, the land development code update.
Okay, so we got traffic count. So the impact fee study, we're just going to leave that in 2021.
That's already been,
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
So you have the traffic count. You said 20,000?
Yeah, we figure it'd probably be about $20,000.
Okay, and then you got 100,000.
Yep.
Where's the other 174,000?
That may go for traffic studies for.
This is where I have a problem. We've got one, I mean, you want me to allocate money and we don't even know where you're going exactly. I don't see it on my budget paperwork. And I'm not trying to be nasty, I mean, I'm just being held accountable, but I've got $174,000 difference here.
I was just reminded by, thank you, Keong. I was just reminded we also put in $150,000 for our ear-based amendments as well.
For what?
The evaluation and appraisal report, which is the update to the comprehensive plan. And that would be a, pretty significant consultant hire right there.
So we got evaluation of comp plan.
Yep.
Okay. What I don't like seeing is just lump sums for future reference just thrown in there without more of a, what's this money going for? Because this is now the second time I'm hearing where we're pulling it here and we're making an assumption of where it's going to go for. I'm not up here to approve money on an assumption. I'm here to approve money on, legitimately, it's a comp plan, it's this, it's that. So
Fair enough.
It needs to reflect in here where these funds are going.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's why I'm a little bit nervous on that at this point.
I can appreciate that.
Thank you.
It's actually on page 265. Under other professional services, you have a carryover for traffic counts. Then you have a land development code review and scoping. Then you have comp plan, ear-based amendments, and the impact fee update is removed. Am I right?
That's correct.
Page 265?
Okay, so we move, okay. So are we going to be able to get better cost analysis, or I'm guessing these are guesstimates?
These are estimates. You are correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner McCool?
I was just going to ask, based on past projects, based on this project, what we're doing with the updating of the land development code, we're looking at impact fees, we're looking at a lot of stuff as we're moving forward. I'm asking, do you have enough staff to be able to, because I know that you're wearing 17 hats, I know that Miss Angela is also. I'm trying to figure out, do you have enough staff and accounted for, or is this why we're having, the consultants? I understand about Duncan, right? And so I'm just asking about that to make sure that you're covered in everything that we're trying to accomplish here.
Right now, we have a huge body of work within the land development and the community development division. A lot of site plans, rezoning activity and whatnot. We've got the staff to continue to move that body of work, as well as we can. And that's the reason why we kind of want to look at consultants, bringing in consultants for some of these larger tasks like the update to the city's land development code and the comprehensive plan. Also anticipate that there should be, or there will be, some public scoping that's involved, especially the update to the comprehensive plan. And it's been my experience that bringing in a consultant to kind of run those scoping meetings can be very helpful. And, take a different view of the position of the community and so forth, so that we can update the planning effort so it doesn't become stale and still reflects community values.
So I want to also verify that, has Duncan completed the impact fee study, or have they?
No, ma'am. Right now, they're in a data gathering mode.
Mm-hmm. And we talked about having that done about the same time as looking at these other scopes too.
Yeah, we talked at minimum a 6-month
Yeah.
turnaround on that. And, now that we're going to have a change order with them, it may protract that out a little bit too.
Good, thank
Good. Commissioner King?
Ron, on some of the projects and things that are going on that have been funded for this year that have not been done yet. If I'm not mistaken, like, after this budget is approved, there will be a commission meeting when we're going to get an opportunity to approve a truing up of funds.
Yeah, when there is a contract that exceeds the 25K, it will go through the ACM's office, and then it'll be advanced to the city commission for, a look-see, and that's where you'll get the actual numbers at what these tasks will cost, and then you all can discuss and decide as appropriate.
Okay. I was wondering because, for instance, we'll take a simple one. The bus bench hasn't been done this year. For the new budget, will we be looking at doing 2 in the new budget rather than doing 1? See what I'm saying? If we're not going to do it in this fiscal year, are we going to do that one and another one next year? Because we were talking about having them done 1 a year.
Yeah, we probably stick to the CRA cycles, every spring, so to speak. And the city commission, acting as the CRA board here, directed us, hey, go ahead and look at a bus shelter at least one a year.
Right.
And that yearly cycle is going to track a little bit differently from the city's fiscal cycle, as far as accomplishing the task.
Okay. I'm not sure you answered my question.
Commissioner King, let me jump in here.
Okay.
Okay, I think I understand your question. Now, as Ron just said, traditionally, we come back to the CRA board around March of every year, and the reason for that is we have an annual reporting requirement around that time.
Right.
And so that's why we traditionally have done, we will do a meeting in March, but when we get the street light numbers from Duke is wanting to meet with us, Marcia and I, about their franchise agreement. Well, the first words that are going to come out of my mouth are, where are we with the lights in the CRA? So, they will understand that's a priority. I expect to get it done as part of the franchise discussion. So let's say we get that price in September. We will schedule a CRA board commission meeting to approve the street lighting as a CRA board, then come back in as commission and approve it as the commission. That will occur during the year because of our new policy of having anything over $25,000 has to be approved by the commission. So your traditional once-a-year CRA board had gone by the wayside because anything that's over $25,000, which just about everything in the CRA, bus stop may not quite reach the 25 threshold, but I will probably bring it back to you just so that you know this is what it looks like. We also, reminder, had a conversation about advertisement. And you all specifically asked that when we do the bus shelters, you want us to bring it back with a discussion about advertisement. So even though it might be $2,000 because they're putting a bunch of advertisement on it, we are obligated to bring it back to the CRA board because you all wanted to have a discussion about the advertisement on the bus shelters. So, those will be brought back to you. Every one of his consultant contracts, except for maybe the not traffic count. One of them you said it was like.
The counts, yeah.
That may not come because that's within my authority. But the others are all going to see 25,000. They will come back to you with a proposal from a consultant with an outline of what's going to be involved in the study, and you all will have an opportunity to have a discussion and to vote on it.
Commissioner King, I think what you're asking is this. If we budget for bus benches this year and we don't do them, do we get 2 next year?
That's what I'm asking.
But with the CRA is a separate fund. That money sits there. It doesn't go back into the general fund. So what you can do with the CRA, if you don't get it this year, if you don't spend $20,000 this year, that money's not going back into the general fund. It's staying in the CRA fund. It's like it doesn't go back. Like, for example, if you have something in the general fund, like you have a sign for parks, and you don't put it up, and you have those $45,000 sitting there, it dumps back into the general fund at the end of the budget year, or you can carry it over. But with the CRA, am I wrong? The CRA is a set amount of money. It does not carry over. It does not go anywhere except in the CRA thing.
The CRA is like a.
So the CRA, if you want to buy 5 bus benches, you can, or you can do 1, even though it's budgeted.
The CRA is just like the stormwater
Yes, it's a
fund and the
separate
water and
fund.
sewer fund. Their enterprise account, the money cannot leave the enterprise account. if
So
you
it
don't
always
spend
sits
it.
there. So you can do what, we can do whatever we want with, we buy 2 bus benches, 3, just because it's not budgeted doesn't mean the money goes away. It stays in the CRA fund.
Right.
I'm sorry, I
think
misunderstood.
that-
But yes, we could potentially do 2 the next year.
Right. Basically, that's what I'm saying.
I'm
If we're
sorry,
not-
I misunderstood.
If we're supposed to do 1 this year and we don't do it,
Yes.
will we do 2 next year? Because we have, in other words,
As long as
we're
the money's
promising
there.
the citizens we're going to do 1 this year, sort of, and when we don't do that, if we don't do it, do we give them 2 next year? That's what I'm asking.
Yes, we will try.
Okay.
I understand now. Chiseled through the,
So let me just throw this out there for you, okay? Because I love it when people say, "We'll try." Try means I have an excuse not to do it. You know,
I think-
we don't want to try, we want to do it because we don't want to have to come up with a reason to say, well, I tried, but I just couldn't do it.
duly noted.
Let's do it.
Duly noted.
I think the days of pushing off projects because we don't want to do them are over, I'm hoping. So, I think we can get bus benches. I'm hoping with this RFP, whatever you've got out there. Vice Mayor, and then we'll wrap it up here if no one else has any other questions.
Okay, I'm sorry, guys, I don't mean to ask stupid questions. All right, and I will acknowledge that the land development request, that came from us. The comp plan request, that came from us. And the impact fee change, that came from us as well. So I get these costs. So my question is, because I'm looking at our 2021 budget, we're at a 7.2 under budget, correct? Well, if I look at the next budget, we're showing 4.9. It's not looking as good next year as it does where we're at this year. So I guess my question is, these items, the land development comp plan and impact fee, is there any reason why we're where we're at right now and we're doing them and we're starting them now, that these items can't come out of this budget to free up the money from the 21-22 budget? I mean, I get it's almost like one to the next, but I mean, numbers are numbers. And the way it looks this next budget season, it's not as positive at all. I mean, when we look at this, as it is this year. And then it can kind of roll over to next year because we're already starting all of these, right?
No, we're only starting the impact fee. That's already been started. Everything else we haven't initiated. And, excuse me, that's not true. The traffic counts, we initiated.
Yeah, the
them.
traffic counts, the
And the
impact
impact fees.
What about the land development and the comp plan? Are any of those going
No.
to be started before the end of our, planning, before October?
No, ma'am. We're not planning to start that before the end of October.
Madam Vice Mayor, the one thing we can start right now, if we can get the RFQ out for the consultant now.
I mean,
so that-
I'm trying to see how do we put this into this year's budget, and that throws that 350,000 on this year, and it's not as bad on next year.
I will talk to the finance department and see if there is a financial strategy in which we can carry the money over within the department. Normally, at the end of the year, the money goes to the general fund. I see Keon walking over here, so.
Well, that's what I'm saying, can we roll it over? If we can say,
She may save me right now.
so that's what I'm saying, if we can earmark it for this, out of this budget, we can say, hey, we're going to roll it over to the next year's budget.
But since we didn't budget it for this year, if we wanted to start this project, so we have to do the budget amendment, so we have to bring those agenda to you to approve this year to do it. And the second thing is, if these are the operating expenditure, unless we issue the PO to the contractor, we cannot roll over this budget. We go to general fund balance. And if they need more money next year, we do the budget amendment. That is kind of policy here. You don't normally roll over operating budget. Normally, when you roll over the budget, it's the capital projects.
Right, so usually we'll get a true up. So usually, the halfway, 3/4 in, we were getting a true up to say this is where we're at. What do we want to do? I know in the past, we've chosen to say, hey, let's do X, Y, Z and put it in parks, is what I'm saying. So can we, when we get that true up this year, say, hey, can we take $350,000 and put it here for these projects? Is what I'm saying.
You could, like I said, since we didn't budget it for this year, if they wanted to spend $350,000, they have to put it in an agenda, get your approval first. Then I can do the budget amendment to
Well, I
transfer
think
the money.
that we would be in agreement of that. I mean, that's something that but it's possible, he just needs to bring it before us, and we would have to approve to it.
If you wanted to do it this year, it is possible, but I don't know they're ready to do it.
If you know that at the end of the year, you're going to have unexpended funds that are not committed by virtue of a purchase order or anything of that nature, you can put in the budget for next year the additional funds with a note that this is $200,000 being carried over from the 2021 budget.
Right. Which to me makes sense. I mean, this year's budget is, like I said, y'all did a wonderful job on putting us in this circumstance. So, I think rolling over and assisting next year, which is looking not as positive, anything we can do to help is going to be beneficial. I mean, I'm sure Ron would love to see that extra $350,000 for something else. And, we got to keep in mind up here when we're doing these requests for these wonderful items that there's a cost to it. So, yeah, if we can look at that, I would love to see that come before and have the chance to vote on it.
Okay, thank you. It's, Commissioners, it's 7:28, and I don't see any more questions on this. So are we ready to wrap it up until tomorrow? Is there any public comment?
We've got CDB.
Madam Mayor, there are no public comments.
Okay, you want to go over the CDBG? Then we need to extend the meeting by 15 minutes. Yes.
I make a motion to extend the meeting by 15 minutes just to cover the housing and community development and public comment.
Okay, Commissioner, or Vice Mayor Bradford, motion to continue. Commissioner King, second. All in favor? Aye. 15 minutes, none opposed. Let's roll.
All right, you want to take it? Okay, very good. All right, community development.
You want to just go?
Yeah, that's fine. We're looking at the existing budget. We got a ship allocation of $640,000. We're looking to owner-occupied rehabilitation, down payment assistance, and if needed, disaster assistance. May also look at future rent assistance for homelessness prevention, also potential for counseling and, of course, administration. CDB allocation is $846,000 plus, and looking again to use this for housing activities, public services, grant administration, and stormwater projects. You know, we had a conversation about stormwater projects here earlier in the day, and if you all remember here a couple meetings ago, we reallocated some of the money from stormwater projects to park projects because of a readiness. The park projects were ready, and the stormwater projects were, you know, still in design. So here we're trying to ensure that a portion of the CDBG money, and these, you know, the CDBG can't be used for all stormwater projects. It needs to be located within an area of greatest concern or greatest need, excuse me, the AGN. So it's not citywide, it's just within certain geographies that HUD considers to be economically stressed. And then we worked with CARES allocation, you know, $600,000 CARES Act. Spent for rent and utility assistance, and we've got another $300,000 for more rent and utility assistance if needed. Again, this is the organizational chart. We saw this with Planning and Development Services. There are 4 employees devoted to the Community Development Division, and those employees, 3 of them are grant funded. And that administrative allocation, whether it be 10% from SHIP or 20% from CDBG, are used to help pay those salaries. What have we done with this grant money? Well, a lot of parks projects, infrastructure like the stormwater we just discussed, grant management. These allocations that the city gets, whether it be CARES Act, whether it be SHIP from the state or CDBG, they are associated with rules. And I've noticed that it seems that when it comes to the state, and especially the federal government, they take a position that in God we trust, but all others we will monitor. And they monitor the city quite closely to ensure that the city is spending this money in compliance with the myriad of rules and regulations that they have. And that, you know, we do spend a fair amount of staff time ensuring compliance with CDBG, SHIP, and other grant rules and requirements. We also work on affordable housing matters, grant housing assistance through SHIP, down payment assistance. We also do a lot of work with owner-occupied rehabilitation. Public services. We continue to support public services, just as, I hope this isn't a spoiler alert or anything like that, but here, coming very shortly, we're going to advance the public service recommendation to the City Commission here, I believe, next month. So stay tuned for that, okay? And again, you know, we talked about land development and land use and whatnot. Housing and community development, the presentation, I think we are done here with this. Is that correct? I'm going backwards. Uh-oh. I thought I had a deja vu moment there, you know? Thank you. You should never give me the clicker. You never know what's going to happen. Fiscal year 2021, just kind of go over this really quick because we don't have a lot of time. We managed the grants, CDBG, SHIP, and a new twist, CARES Act. We spent a fair amount of CARES Act out there. We received approximately 9,000 application for assistance. And we also completed rehabilitation in NSP1 homes, and NSP3 is awaiting closeout. Moving forward, state law change. We're going to continue to work with the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee to ensure that we comply with the mandate of the state to look at impediments to affordable housing here within the city. We're going to continue to work with local partners like the Continuum of Care and the Health Department and the West Volusia Collaborative and other nonprofits to ensure that there is public service provision here within the community. Again, just going through these really quick, continue to work with CDBG and SHIP and CARES Act, and the latest, I'm not sure what's going to happen with the latest stimulus monies that are going to come down from Washington, D.C. I know a good portion of them has been earmarked for meters and whatnot, which is great. And we're going to advocate for affordable housing and additional economic development. Here's our performance measures, just kind of some quantitative information. And we'll get to the good stuff, the questions and answers. And I've got Angela here to kind of, help me out because she is the expert on all this.
Commissioner McCool and then Vice Mayor Bradford.
Out of the 9,000 applicants that we had, could you tell me how many actually qualified?
And there was a typo on that. It wasn't 9,000 applicants. It was 9,000 inquiries between phone calls, walk-ins, and special events that we did. We approved approximately and paid close to 160 and 180 applicants, up to $7,500 per household, just under CRF. And we're still working in some of the CARES funding. So we probably did close to about 100 to 110. Other applicants that were approved. Understand that when we approve an applicant, it's for as many months as long as they do not exceed that $7,500. So.
And I bring that up to say that, once again, for the listening public, we have the funds. However, it is not the city that puts the parameters of how a resident qualifies. These are federal and state guidelines, because I believe that some of the misnomer, mythology, false information, fake news, whatever you want to call it out there, says that, oh, Deltona doesn't want to give me money, and that is not true. Deltona is desperate to give money to those that qualify. It is the state and federal guidelines that say how much you can make, what the parameters are of who lives in your house, and how you qualify for any of those funds. Deltona works really, really hard to give that money away in everything that they do. So I want to clarify that. My next and last question really is, one of the strategic goals that we have here in economic development is diversified and high-quality housing. And I want to know, and we talk about it a couple of times here, what is affordable housing? How much house is affordable? What is that number that we are saying is affordable housing?
It can fluctuate. It depends on the number in the household. We have guidelines given to us by the state and by the federal government. We're looking at that. At this time and in this place, we wanted to open up down payment assistance for very low and low. At this time, based on the cost of housing, we are not going to be able to do that. Our staff is working double time. Right now, we've determined we will only be able to do down payment assistance for high, low-end households and moderate households. But we have to have a set aside for low and very low. So what we're going to do with the additional funds for the low and the very low, we're not going to just solicit. We've gone out and working with Volusia County, the property appraiser's office, and we thought maybe instead of asking residents to come to us, for us to target houses look at our housing stock. Look at the age of our housing stock. Sometimes when we walk through these homes, it breaks our heart. And so what we want to do is now target the actual homes and maybe contact the residents in those homes and say, hey, would you like to be a part of this program? More than likely, in a lot of those homes, we're hoping they'll be elderly, they'll be possibly low-income households. That would help us make our set-asides. So we're going to look at a different strategy instead of just putting out there, hey, we have this money. We want to start looking at our stock and going back to the 50-year-old homes and the 40-year-old homes. We know after 20 years to 30 years, you're going to need new septic. You're going to need new AC. You're going to need new roofs. So let's look at it in a different way instead of just standing and waiting for somebody to walk through the door.
And you guys do a remarkable job. I've worked with you since before I sat up here, and I understand the work that you do. My point in that is that we're building a lot of new homes. I know that people are growing out of homes and moving out of homes. I am hoping also with the new rental situation that we're doing and holding landlords and doing licensing every year and inspections, that it raises the quality of houses that we have here, because I hear residents and I hear it on social media all the time that people can't afford. They get trapped in the rental house because they can't afford. We don't have affordable housing as a rule here. They're already purchased by investors or flippers, and then the prices go up on them. So that's why I asked that, so that the general public can hear. Part of what the issue that we have is that we have, because what is our last number, 39% rental in Deltona? Am I correct on that?
30%.
How much, 30%? 30% of rental market and flipping that goes on. So that's what I want to bring to the forefront. I also want to just follow up. And this is for a later time, but I just want to get into the dialogue again about our social services objectives, that I'm hoping that as we move forward, that we will continue to look at a centralized social services, because it's in your goals and objectives and performance measures. It is listed a few times. So as we move forward, still working on that part also to improve social services here. Thank you.
Commissioners, we need to extend the meeting another 15 minutes. It's about 7:45. I have 3 people on the board. Commissioner or Vice
I move to
Mayor
extend it another 15 minutes.
King? I know you don't want to.
I just don't want to do it tomorrow night.
All right, 15 up to 8 o'clock, and then I know Commissioner King has a commitment. He has to. We're done at 8. All in favor, 15 more minutes? Aye. Okay. You're done, Commissioner McCool. Vice Mayor Bradford.
Okay. My number one question, because I know you have been killing it this last year since COVID. It has been nuts. Ron, you know my question. Where are we with staff? Have we got this girl help?
He has. And
Permanent help.
it's permanent help right now.
And do you have enough permanent help? Now, we're talking, now you're going to be going out of the office, going to homes. I just want to make sure, because your department, we can't pull away from grants, we can't pull away from this, but we want you to do this and we want you to do that. So trust me, I think we all recognize up here what you go through. So my question is, my big letters, STAFF.
Ron always supports us. Sometimes I go to him and it's like, oh God, I have to go
In
to
his
him
spare
again.
time.
And that's the thing. Ron has no spare time, but he always supports us. And he always makes sure that we have what we need. He's a great boss. I was very lucky 11 years ago that he and Boley chose us, and myself and Miss Mary. And having said that, we have sufficient staff right now, and we have a good group of staff. We want to be more technical. We want to be more precise. We're going to be working closely with Volusia County. We're going to send staff to like the JAG meetings to address some of the things that Commissioner McCool is concerned with. We're going to be looking at some of the other meetings having to do with social services. We want to start going. We want to see where they're spending their money. We want our staff for Volusia County, because they get a lot more money than us, for us to be able to have a conversation with them. When someone from our city calls us and they need something, we want to know who to call. We want to know who we can email, who we can call. We're working with the West Volusia Collaborative. We want to be more proactive. Instead of waiting for people to come to us, we want to find people. We actually heard about Duke. They have a little plan going on to hire people to become linemen. We want to eventually talk to you, Commissioner, about that, how we can help with that. We're talking with CareerSource and Jerry, instead of paying for rent, maybe working with businesses to get more people to go back to work by subsidizing childcare, by maybe working with funding to say, hey, here's a little more money, let's go back to work. CNAs, we need CNAs. We need all different types of things. We'll be at the 4th of July. We're going to be taking surveys there and giving out little trinkets too, Phyllis. So we've got a good group. Ron has given us kind of carte blanche to do what we need to do, and we're going to try to see if we can make community development what you all need for it to be for the city. So he may be coming back to you guys for some things.
I'm excited. I'm excited to hear all that. Both of you, Ron, thank you for being so supportive to the staff. Again, I just want to make sure you have the staff, because the community outreach is what is desperately needed. And I don't know if one of you guys or you're all doing it together as a team, I'm guessing. But I'm excited to hear about this community outreach. And I would love, love, love to see it broadcasted that we have this community outreach out there. This, to me, would be a perfect PR positive going out to the residents, that we have you guys actively out there, and here's the way to reach them, and how can they reach you?
We are going to be in every newsletter that goes out. We've talked with Wendy. We're going to do 4 videos. We are going to do a ride-along with the Parks Department, visit all the parks that we've assisted, show them all the new people. We don't want to show them the inclusive measures that we have there. I forgot about some until I went on a ride. We want to also target, over the next 3 to 4 years, going back to parks or anything in the area of greatest need, and making sure there's inclusivity in there. And we want to, like I say, do the videos to the residents. We want to be out at all of the events that we have, letting them know what we have, getting their input, and working with Parks and Public Works and every department within the city, Jerry, Grants, Lee's department, to get that information out. We listen to you guys, and Ron's been very, very understanding.
And I definitely recommend to reach out to local churches, because generally the churches also have a outreach that they use. I know New Hope, our church, we have a specific department that goes out. They even go out to the parks and give pizzas, and they'll do different things to bring it in. And they may be a great resource to say, who do you know that's in that low income? So again, thank you.
Okay. So you have enough staff?
Staff, that's the question.
That was the question,
for all you're
budget-wise.
doing,
And I'm asking, because it's on, I think Commissioner Sosa, you're next on the board, but I just wanted to make sure, piggybacking on that was going to be my question. Grant, because you have grant funding for extra staff. Have we utilized that? That is my question.
Oh, we've utilized it.
Okay, that's all. That's good. As long as you're good.
But he may be
Commissioner
coming
Sosa.
back.
Just very quick, you forgot to mention the meetings, ongoing meetings with the state.
The AHAC, and she sits on our, and I didn't realize, she sits on the state board, not just our board for AHAC. So we're going through meetings. This will be an annual thing, so we may have to come back for more staff. But right now, planning supports us 100%. A lot of times we pull people from planning. So Ron's done a great job on that. We're fine right now. Any more questions?
One more quick question for Ron. You may know this. If not, you can get me an answer later. You know, stating that we have a 30% rental market in Deltona, can you give me what an average rental market is in other cities of our size?
Deltona's 50%.
Yeah, right now, that 30% number is non-homesteaded properties, okay? Just for clarification.
Okay, so 30% is just non-homesteaded.
Non-homesteaded properties. We do not know, we don't have a good understanding of the breakdown of how many of those are snowbird houses, second homes. How many of those are just held, I don't know, for investments that are vacant.
When's the census come out?
The census, we should start getting information here in October from what I recollect, but I'm not sure exactly when all that information, like in the in like the quick facts is going to be produced.
Okay, I would just like,
Vice
when we
Mayor,
do get it, to know where are we in relation to cities of our size?
If I can interject here,
Please.
in Deltona Water, we're reviewing all of our accounts. The renters get the meters in their own names, and they have to provide the lease. So we have the records on the Deltona Water system as to who is leasing properties. We are pulling that number together to get a more accurate number and a database, which is also tied to our GIS system, so that when we're complete with that exercise, we know every property on Deltona Water that is rentals, and I believe we can get the same information from Del North. So we will have a very accurate count when it's all said and done.
What do you do if the landlord has the utilities in their name?
Pardon me?
What if the landlord has utilities in their name?
That's pretty rare. The reason for that is if the landlord leaves it in their name and they have a renter that ensconces, then the landlord is responsible for the bill. Very few landlords are keeping, just for business reason, would keep that in their name. One of the state statutory things, I could have a rental property that has had 10 people abscond and not pay the bill. The landlord sells the house, and we can't lien the house for all those bills that have not been paid. So it would be extremely rare to have a landlord keep the water bill in their names.
Okay. Commissioner Sosa, sorry, finally.
I just got two quick questions. Out of the SHIP allocation of $640,000, I just want to know how many applicants were we actually able to help, and how many dollars per resident on average did we give to that person? And what was the breakdown on the rehab, rental assistance, and down payment assistance?
Okay, so we began with rental assistance back when the pandemic first came out, right around Easter. We partnered with New Hope Baptist and the Neighborhood Center so we could get money out on the street quickly. We probably did about 30 households in that 2 to 3 month period, that 2.5 month period. Then we brought our money in, started using our money. And of that, the CRF funds, which were the state funds, which is not the 640 that you see, that 640 that you see is for next year's funding. But out of the original 500, we expended that, and they came back and gave us an additional access to take an additional 200. Out of those, like I say, we did it somewhere between 140 and 160 households with a maximum amount of $7,500 per household. And it wasn't just rent, it was also mortgage, electric, water, and some cable, yes. So we spent it on those 5 services.
And how much did we spend on rehab, and how many houses did we actually rehab?
Rehab this year, we didn't spend a lot because we were so inundated with dealing with COVID. We probably spent about $130,000, actually about 130 just on rehab. So we did approximately 4 or 5 houses. Our issue is that when we got into the homes, several of the homes needed extensive work, and we would have to go back, and they would exceed what we could do, so some fell out. So we probably looked at least 20 houses. We ended up with safely about 8 houses that we could complete the work on because it was just too extensive.
Okay. All right.
Did that answer the question?
Yes.
Okay.
And this one goes for SFRs, the single-family rentals. You know, I don't know if everybody's seen a lot where, you know, organizations, pension funds, hedge funds are gobbling up all these rental properties. And I had heard from a couple people, I don't know how true this is, but if we could just put this to rest tonight, that property that's being built off of Doyle, the vineyards, I had heard that a pension fund or a hedge fund had purchased that and is going to turn that into a single-family rental community. Is that true? Have we heard anything on that?
I have not heard anything like that. It's not unusual for investors and Wall Street money to be involved in real estate development. And that's not a new trend by any stretch of the imagination. But I don't foresee that being there's no foundation for that.
Okay, so we haven't heard anything whether or not somebody
not at all.
purchase the whole
And I find
neighborhood.
that highly unlikely based on my knowledge of the land development world out there. I mean, usually when you look at Wall Street, you know, they would prefer quick turnover, quick profits, which, you know, the sale of the property would grant that, then they can move on to the next one. You know, you get into yeah, okay, do you?
Yeah, we have some data on that. We went to one of our realtors and asked them to give us a list of, this is how we determined we couldn't do down payment. The average house, we have a large amount of houses, they're buying them and flipping them. Of the approximately 40 homes that we got that were on the market, probably a good 5 to 10 of them was one company, realty company, and one they had just bought 3 months ago, and they were flipping it, and they were going to be making like $40,000 to $50,000. So with a lot of our properties, that's why a lot of the reasons why we can't do down payment assistance is a lot of people are selling. We have people paying us off. An NSP home we sold for $80,000. It's being sold for $275,000. And they will give us our money back and give the first mortgage holder their money back because they walk away with $150,000. We get calls every day from people wanting to move here for some reason, and especially with Section 8. There's a list out there where Section 8 all over the United States is saying, Deltona is one of the places to move and transfer your voucher. So we started asking people. My caseworker gave me a list, and Deltona's on the list. And we're telling them they have to go through the county, but there's really nothing affordable at this point.
Right.
So.
All right, thank you.
Okay, seeing no more questions, that will wrap up tonight's budget hearing. Thank you very much, everyone, for there's no public comment, right? I already asked before, no. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.